Good morning, Pelham Road. Well, I know you can tell the skies are gray, but you know, it's fall. I mean, it's getting to be fall. It feels great out here. I mean, I hope Friday morning's as nice as this is Thursday morning. So go outside. Well, this is Storytelling Friday. I had promised a couple of weeks ago that on Fridays we would do stories. And then I had a couple of interruptions, so I didn't get to stories. So I'm gonna give you a story today. And this story takes place in a certain place. So I kind of have to hold this map up and hopefully I can get the, see down in here? The Chattooga River, while it forms the border to Georgia and South Carolina, in North Carolina, it is between Highlands and Cashiers. And usually in the, well, I hike that area a great deal, but usually in the fall, Joanne and I would go up for a few days to Highlands or Cashiers or Brevard or Clayton or Dillard, somewhere up in that area. This event happened 7 to 8 years ago. We were staying at a little bed and breakfast. It was a woman who was a retired Episcopal minister from Memphis, had bought a house there, and she rented out a couple of rooms as a sort of, what do they call it now? The young kids call it the Airbnb sort of thing. But in that day, it was just she advertised as a bed and breakfast. Anyway, that's where we're staying. And we go out and we go down to the Chattooga River, which I've been to many times. This is at it's called the Iron Bridge. It's on a dirt road. It's where the Chattooga comes in. It's a lot of white water. There's a lot of trout fishing that goes on. It's just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. If you ever want me to take you over there, I'll be glad to take you over there. I love a day over there. They have hiking trails around it, but it's photogenic in, well, all times of the year, but I was going there in the fall. And so I had a tripod with me, and I had my camera with me, and I had Joanne with me. And we go down to right in the midst of where the white water is coming through. There's lots of big boulders. And so if you're careful, you can jump from boulder to boulder and you can get out and you can get a photograph that's right in the middle of the rushing water as the water's coming towards you. And you can do that pretty safely and then jump on the way back. Well, I told Joanne before we started on our way out, I said, these boulders, they're really large boulders, and some of them have a dip in them like this. And that dip, water can get in, all right? And so you can see that there's a bottom to that, and you can say, well, that's just a dip in the rock. But I said, there are some of these boulders out here that are absolutely hollow. There is nothing. It makes you think there's a dip. And you see the water in the middle and you think, well, that's just a dip like every other rock out here has a little pivot in it and you can put your foot in it. But some of them you can't. You go right through the bottom. It's a hole. It's not a rock. It's a hole. And I can remember saying that to her. There's a little irony coming in a second. And so I said, be careful around that. And so we got out there and we positioned the tripod, and Joanne was telling me that I needed to be careful, and telling me that I needed to watch where I was stepping and watch what I was doing. And I was setting the camera properly, trying to get the lighting right, trying to get all the factors and getting a good shot of white water pouring over rocks. Well, in getting this, I continue to position myself around, and I step in one of those holes, not one of the dips where you go like 6 inches down and your foot hits on the rock. I fell in one of the holes. Well, I fall into this hole and my feet never touch the bottom. I pop back up like I'm bobbing in the water. Now, I've got my camera around my neck and I'm trying to give it to Joanne. And the tripod has been broken now and has fallen in with me. Well, Joanne doesn't care anything about the camera. She's trying to grab me. Well, now, you got to bear in mind, this is fall in Cashiers or Highlands, North Carolina. The water's probably 55 degrees. It is absolutely freezing water. And Joanne sits down on the side of the hole without falling in, and she's trying to get her arms around me so she can grab me underneath my arms to pull me up, because I can't grab anything. The rock is just, you know, smooth. And so I can't get any friction with my legs or with my arms trying to hold myself up. And so I'm bobbing up and down like this. And she gets her arms underneath me and she pulls me. Well, she is able to pull me up enough that I can get one foot on the other side of that stone and have a little friction and push myself up. And she's pulling me up. And so I get up. Now, the first moral of the story is be careful who your wife is. She could have left me that day, and she worked hard to get me out. And so that's the first moral of the story. Choose your spouse well. Anyway, I get out. Now, the camera's not ruined, but the tripod is done. Okay, the tripod is done. It's crushed. And I'm just shivering wet. And now Joanne's a little bit wet because she had to sit down in the water, and so the bottom of her leggings are wet. But I'm just soaked through and through. All right, well, you know, you're hiking and you're on a river, and the car is not just right around the corner. So it took us probably 20 to 25 minutes to walk back to the car from where we were, to climb out of that, to jump across the rocks, to climb up underneath the bridge, to get on the bridge, to walk across the bridge, and then to walk up to where the car was parked. Well, I'm absolutely freezing to death by this time. And I mean, I'm shivering. I'm just soaked to the bone. Now, Joanne and I have, for many years, kept like a blanket in the back of the car that was like a picnic blanket. It was what we would sit on if we would find a good spot to picnic. And so Joanne says, just strip everything off and put on this blanket. So I do. I strip everything off, and I wrap up in this blanket. Well, that's immediate relief. Of course, you get in the car, you turn the heat on, and, you know, it's just really immediate relief. I'm feeling a lot better. Until we get back to the bed and breakfast. Now, this is not the Hampton Inn that you can come slinking in and just sneak into your room. This is a bed and breakfast where you got to walk right by the kitchen and right by the den where the Episcopal minister is. And there's this now fully dressed woman, and I'm wearing like a toga. And it's not even a toga. The toga is a liberal definition of this. I'm wearing a blanket that I pulled in. You know, that's about all I've got. Well, as soon as we get out of the car, I'm telling Joanne, I said, I'm feeling a little awkward about this. And she said, well, you ought to feel awkward about this. You ought to feel, and she's telling me all the ways I ought to feel. And then this Episcopal minister, the woman, she appears on her porch, and she says, well, what have you two been up to? And she says, I bet there's a story to tell. And I'm still shivering and a bit embarrassed. And so I say something like, well, there is a story, but it's not going to be told now. And so I go in and get warm and get changed. And I guess the second moral of that story is be very careful about the bed and breakfasts you choose, because she could have blackmailed me, I imagine, but she didn't. Anyway, it's beautiful scenery up there. Hope you get to go up there sometimes. It's over here between Cashiers and Highlands. Beautiful country. Ask people where the iron bridge is and you'll go right to it. But be careful. Those rocks are slippery, and they go there. It's not just flat there, it's a hole, and you will go down in the water. And if you don't have a good spouse there to grab you, have a great weekend. See you Monday.